From New York City, I'm Stephen Shalowitz, and this is the One Way Ticket Show. So I just want you to share with us first how you really came to be the knocker on the door, and really what did that mean?
It was one of the events that occurred to you by chance. It was in 1986 when our late president, Chaim Herzog, the father of our president, approached me. We knew each other from our law practice. He was a lawyer at that time before he became president. And he asked me if I would like to volunteer for 1 year, only 1 year, to stand next to the families of MIAs and POWs of Israel and then try to assist them in their very complicated situation. And he said, if you would like to come only for 1 year, it will be okay. It's a volunteering role. And at that time, I was at the beginning of my legal practice. And, just the beginning, the only thing you think is being in your business. So I said, if it is only 1 year, I'll take it. It's so important. And then I came to 1 year and remained, as you said, 40 years in this volunteer. And after that, the process was that I became a special consultant to Israel defense ministers and one prime minister, 7 defense ministers. It's Rabin, Moshe Arens, Ehud Barak, and many others. And this year, I'm completing my 40 years of this so special role that I think I'm lucky that I got it.
Indeed. And I remember you were telling me last time, Ory, that your salary was 1 shekel a year.
My salary on paper was 1 shekel annually, but I can confess, I didn't get it. They owe me 40 shekels.
And as I told you last time, the current president, Herzog of Israel, so I'm sure he's good for it.
Let's drop it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if I ever meet him, Ory, I'll certainly ask on your
behalf.
Right. All right.
Yes, remind him, yes.
Right. I'll remind him. And of course, you're not doing it.
He knows me very well, yes.
Yes. And I say that, of course, in jest, because I know that it was really a very important assignment that you had. And when you became a knocker on the door, that really meant that you were the first point of contact for Israel when it came to trying to release these POWs and the MIAs. And so I would imagine that you really came across some really, as we say, nefarious type characters. How did you generally arrange the meetings, Ory, and how did you really prepare for them?
It's not a standard system. It depends on the personality, depends on his background, depends on many, many other aspects. But mainly when I met hundreds or even more terrorists and ugly creatures, sometimes the ugliest on earth. But when I met them or when I talked to them, the whole thing was concentrated on trying to reach my goal. And I always treated them as human beings, of course. Sometimes we chatted personally on our personal life. Sometimes half of the discussion was about personal things, wife, children, and whatever. And the aim was, at the end of the day, to create some mode of reaching to each other's hearts, not only brain and head, not only rational, but at a certain stage, a bit emotional. For example, most of the people that I met, I always mention that I'm coming from a family that is many, many generations in Israel or Palestine at that time, that my family came from Hebron. And I'm a Palestinian. And the fact that I don't look like is that my mother came from Germany. But my father was very, very dark and looked like every Palestinian in here. So we did it very naturally.
Yeah. And we should share with our audience that you were born in pre-state Israel, which was known as the Palestinian Mandate, the British Mandate of Palestine.
Yes.
So that's why you would say that you technically are a Palestinian, and more so than these people that claim to be. So you treated these people, these terrorists that you had to deal with is human beings. Did they reciprocate? Did they treat you in the same way, Ori?
I believe that on top that the basic suspect of you are coming from my enemy side and all that things. But at the end of the day, we are human beings and we're talking from time to time about our human problems, about our personal life. Sometimes I assisted my counterparts, by helping them with doctors, with with things. There's nothing to do with the issue like not two friends, but two human beings.
Yeah, and I wanna pivot then to more contemporary time, and I told you before we started rolling, you were actually the last guest I had here on the program before the October 7th terrorist attack, when Hamas attacked Israel, October 7th, 2023. So I'd like to go there now with you, and I'm wondering, where were you? Where was your family on October 7th when that attack happened by Hamas? And when you heard the news that there were 251 hostages taken, what went through your head, especially given the work that you had been doing all those years?
That day at morning time, it was something like 6:30 in the morning. We all opened our TVs and we saw at the beginning we saw Palestinians and Hamas people from Gaza running to our southern border. We knew nothing about the circumstances. We knew nothing about what is happening there. And only after a couple of hours, we heard about the big disaster. That it was a great murder operation, a great raping operation, and the people of Hamas coming into our country. For us, it was a great shock. And at the beginning of this day, very early in the morning, I had a discussion with a friend of mine from our paratrooper service in the army. He lived in Be'eri, in the kibbutz in the south of Israel. And he described me at 7:30 in the morning. He is hearing terrorists coming to his house in kibbutz Be'eri. And at the end of the day, he was, after, I believe, 3 hours of chatting here and there, like ping pong, he was murdered, and his wife was injured, very severe injured, and then I felt that we are coming into something that we never had, and at that time I didn't think about what I'm going to be in the whole thing after that day, because in the morning we still didn't hear about the hostages. We knew that it is, very roughly way, but only the day after, all of us discovered, and I was discovered also in person, that 250 something like that human beings, old people, men, women, and babies, and pregnant women, whatever you can imagine, were hostages of the Hamas and being taken to Gaza, in very cruel way.
And
And only the day after, I was approached to enter into the saga of dealing with hostages and families, not on behalf of the government this time, not on behalf of the country, but in a very private citizens of Israel initial that they started the day after, and they created the headquarter of the hostages, of the families, without the government interfering or involvement. And it became the headquarter of the hostages, and stayed for 2 years. All the funds were raised privately from usually human beings, and I was part of it. This time, not as a part of the government, but part of this initiative.
yeah, it was part of civil society, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was unprecedented.
So, together with your very supportive and accomplished attorney wife, Tammy, you, as you said, you were very actively involved with the hostage families. Can you talk about what they were going through? And can you invoke Moliere's quote that you've shared with me before? Because I think both really come together.
In the past, I dealt mostly with people who were POWs or MIAs by being soldiers or being part of the army. This was the first time that it occurred to citizens, to simple citizens, to men and women, to babies of 3 to 6 months old, to all people of above 80 and 85, for pregnant ladies. It was something which is unprecedented, nothing to do with what I've done in the past. So the whole thing is something which has another way of attitude, another way of dealing with. It was something, the most cruel human being situation that I've ever practiced. And there are no rules to what I'm doing. There are no regulations. But to such a situation, I didn't dream. Nobody dreamed about such a situation. And the problems are much more problems than it happens to a soldier, to one who is part of the army.
And then share Moliere's quote, if you would, because again, I think that really typifies what the families were going through.
My definition of this situation, and my definition also of why in the Judaism being a prisoner of war is the number one mitzvah, and the most important mitzvah, the most important order of the Judaism. And I asked many rabbis in Israel and out of Israel, and they said this is because it is the most uncertainty you have in life.